Of someone's callous and reckless disregard of life, my father died just inches away from safety, afraid and alone.
We escaped a monster. She's a monster.
Don't ask for forgiveness. I don't ask for forgiveness. And I don't ask for forgiveness when you need a TT.
No guilt, no shame, just killers hiding behind calm expressions. From Jeannine Jaramillo's deadly scheme to Robin Root's cold murder and fires that stole innocent lives, these women's courtroom reactions will haunt you. Let's begin.
March 2022. It's another instance where the truth is different from how it initially appears. Let's take a look.
Life in prison, just for a wrong-way chase. Jeannine Jaramillo's deadly drive tore through a community, leaving heartbreak and unanswered questions. Her lies and reckless choices ended 2 lives, lives that belonged to local heroes, Officer Robert Duran and firefighter Frank Lovato. On March 2, 2022, Santa Fe police received a frantic emergency call. On the line was 46-year-old Jeannine Jaramillo, claiming her boyfriend had kidnapped her at knife point. Officers quickly responded to the call, unaware that it would ultimately lead to a tragic outcome. The problem began when the call turned into a high-speed chase. Police followed Jaramillo through the streets of Santa Fe. Instead of stopping, she pushed the gas harder, dangerously weaving through traffic. Moments later, she steered onto Interstate 25, but in the wrong direction. Driving against traffic at high speed, Jaramillo's car slammed head-on into another vehicle. When police questioned her about the incident, one investigator pressed, "What cannot be explained?"
Cannot be explained is you getting hit in the head so hard by a man that he knocks you out, and there's not a bruise, there's not a welt.
How do they know? How do you know there's no bruises on my head?
But it was the investigator's next word that stunned both Jeannine and the community.
We're looking at you.
After the investigation, it was revealed that the crash killed 2 respected members of the community, Santa Fe police officer Robert Duran and retired Las Vegas firefighter Frank Lovato. Court testimony painted a clear picture of what happened next. Jaramillo had told police she was kidnapped, but evidence showed she lied. She was under the influence of a substance and made reckless choices that cost 2 lives. Prosecutors said there was no plan to kill, but her lies and reckless driving were fueled by substance mistreatment and an attempt to avoid responsibility. Officer Duran's family later shared that he was trying to protect her life when he died, a heartbreaking truth. In August 2024, inside a Santa Fe courtroom, a jury found Jaramillo guilty on all counts, including 2 charges of first-degree murder. Judge Mary Marlowe Sommer sentenced her to life in prison for each murder, a total of 60 years, to be served back-to-back. She will never be released. However, she showed no emotion for her actions.
State of New Mexico versus Jeannine Jaramillo. We find the defendant guilty of murder in the first degree as charged in count 2.
Families of both victims spoke about their grief and the emptiness left behind. Some, like Duran's sister, chose not to hold hate in their hearts, saying they wouldn't let Jaramillo take away their peace. Others, like Duran's wife, asked for the maximum sentence, not out of anger, but to protect others. 2 heroes gone, and not a hint of remorse from the woman who caused it. But our next case takes betrayal to a level that's almost impossible to imagine. A grandmother helping plan the murder of her grandchild's mother.
Has your mother ever said anything to you? Motivated you, enticed you, wanted you, manipulated you to, or anything else to take Brooklyn Sims' life?
No, sir.
On August 11th, 2023, the peaceful routine inside a Pensacola Home Depot was shattered by a tragedy that no one saw coming. That morning, 18-year-old Brooklyn Sims, a young mother who worked hard to provide for her 2-year-old child, arrived for her shift. Her day began like any other, but within hours, she would lose her life in an act of calculated violence. Brooklyn Sims was in a relationship with Keith A.G., the 20-year-old father of her child, but as time passed, their relationship grew strained, filled with tension and conflict. What no one saw coming was the dark role Keith's mother, 52-year-old Sheila A.G., would play. Instead of trying to bring peace, Sheila chose to side completely with her son. She didn't just watch from the sidelines. She became an active part of her son's deadly plan. Keith drove from Alabama to the Home Depot parking lot that day. Minutes later, he walked inside and shot Brooklyn while she worked. Customers and employees fled in panic as the horror unfolded. Brooklyn died before help could reach her. As the investigation unfolded, the truth began to surface. Surveillance footage, witness accounts, and a series of text messages painted a chilling picture. That morning, Sheila drove Brooklyn to work, acting as if everything was normal. But behind the scenes, her phone revealed a darker story. Authorities uncovered texts between Sheila and Keith where they planned to attack ahead of time. In one shocking message, Sheila urged her son, "If you don't come kill her, you a MF bitch." She even sent him a map of the store and warned him not to shoot near her car. According to Keith, the conflict was fueled by anger after he claimed he'd contracted an STD from Brooklyn, a claim that was later proven false. 6 days before the shooting, Brooklyn had sent Sheila a picture from a doctor's visit confirming she was healthy. The case went through 2 trials. Keith was found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder in December 2023 and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Sheila's first trial ended in a mistrial, but in her second trial, the jury found her guilty of principal to first-degree premeditated murder. However, she showed no emotion for her actions. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The community was left in disbelief and outrage. The idea that a mother would help her son plan the murder of the mother of her grandchild shocked everyone. Even more disturbing, the night before her arrest, Sheila attended an honorary balloon release for Brooklyn, pretending to grieve alongside others. A mother's role is to protect, but here it became a weapon. And in our next case, the weapon wasn't a gun, it was a fire. Flames so destructive, they took an innocent life and left a community terrified.
Gasoline, a Starbucks bottle that matched the fire at South 54th Street, other items belonging to Metro Parks.
In late 2021 and early 2022, the communities of Tacoma and nearby Ruston were gripped by fear as a wave of destruction swept through. Homes, garages, and cars were going up in flames, leaving residents scared and searching for answers. At first, no one knew who was responsible, but soon, the truth would shock them all. Then, on New Year's Eve 2021, one fire took a terrible toll, and an 83-year-old man lost his life. At first, this fire was thought to be an accident, but as more fires started popping up, the police began to suspect something much more serious. The Pierce County Sheriff's Department, along with Tacoma police and federal agencies like the ATF, launched a major investigation. Using police dogs, they quickly found evidence that the New Year's Eve fire was not an accident, but had been set on purpose. After the investigation, 42-year-old Sarah Ramey was arrested. A search of her truck uncovered stolen mail, keys, gasoline containers, and even belongings linked to a man who died in the fire. These findings raised serious questions and heightened suspicion. Police also learned that Sarah was near the location of several fires and even had a special torch lighter when she was caught. Plus, her phone was tracked near the scene of the deadly fire for hours, linking her to the crime. Sarah Ramey faced serious charges: murder, arson for 13 fires, attempted arson, burglary, identity theft, and motor vehicle theft. During the trial, victims shared their stories, like Jeannine Mitchell, whose garage, carport, and car were destroyed. The fires also took precious keepsakes that meant a lot to her family. While the exact reason behind Sarah's actions remains unclear, the destruction and fear she caused were very real for the community. On July 23, 2024, the jury found Sarah Ramey guilty on all counts. She was sentenced to 82 years in prison, ensuring she will not be able to harm anyone else. For victims like Jeannine Mitchell, the verdict brought relief after years of fear. She hopes Sarah will never be free again, so the neighborhood can finally feel safe. Some neighbors said,
"What affected our family and so many of the other families."
The fires may be out, but the damage will never fade. Now we turn to a case that raises a haunting question. What if the person convicted is telling the truth when they say they're innocent?
They got it completely wrong. You say you blacked out at the moment your husband was being murdered. But people watching might think, that sounds so convenient.
Yeah.
In December 2012, Sarah Melgar's life changed forever. That night, she and her husband Jim were celebrating their 32nd wedding anniversary at their home near Houston, Texas. What started as a joyful evening ended in heartbreak when Jim was found dead, and Sandra was accused of a crime she says she didn't commit. Sandra always maintained her innocence. She told police that someone broke into their home, tied her up, locked her in a closet, and killed Jim. But the authorities saw it differently. They believed Sandra had stabbed Jim 31 times in their bedroom closet, a crime scene with no signs of forced entry. The evidence: prosecutors said the murder weapon was found in the house and that Sarah had no injuries or signs of a struggle. When family members found the couple's vehicles outside but no answer at the door, Jim's brother went inside. He found Sandra tied up in the closet and Jim dead from stab wounds. The house was ransacked, with missing items and a strange backpack left behind. Sarah was taken for questioning, but the district attorney initially refused to press charges due to a lack of evidence. Yet, during the trial, prosecutors painted a very different picture. Despite no physical evidence linking Sandra to the murder, no blood from Jim on her, no DNA under her nails, and no signs that she left the closet, prosecutors argued that the murder weapon was found in the house and that there was no forced entry. This led them to suspect Sandra. However, many legal experts say that convictions based mainly on theories and circumstantial evidence can be flawed. Still, after a 13-day trial, the jury convicted Sandra, and she was sentenced to 27 years in prison. When the verdict was read, she showed no signs of regret because she didn't believe what happened to her. According to her, she is innocent. Prosecutors claimed jealousy and passion fueled the murder, but Sandra told a different story. She said she and Jim had planned a future full of travel and retirement together. On their last night, they had shared dreams in the jacuzzi. Jim had gone to let the dogs in, and that was the last time she saw him alive. Since her conviction, Sandra has fought to prove her innocence. The Innocence Project of Texas took up her case in 2022, pointing out major flaws in the prosecution's story. New DNA evidence from blood on Jim's safe doesn't match Sandra or anyone in her family. It belongs to an unknown man. Her family has now offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the real killer. Sandra remains behind bars, but continues to hope for justice. Sandra says that every day in prison feels like a nightmare. She misses Jim deeply and faces ongoing health challenges. Yet she holds on to hope to one day be free, share her story, and watch her grandchildren grow up. Our next case is different. The killer admitted what happened, but a shocking legal twist may set her free.
I admitted to an accident, not to premeditated.
So you're saying that Janet Kelly's death was just an accident?
Yeah, the video speaks for itself.
In December 2007, 60-year-old Janet Kelly vanished from her home in Grand Rapids. Months later, her body was discovered in a remote field, leaving police with more questions than answers. When investigators examined the scene, they found that Janet had been badly injured and tied up, showing clear signs of a violent attack. DNA evidence was collected that could have identified the person responsible, but for reasons still unclear, it wasn't sent to the state crime lab for testing until several years later. Nearly a decade after her death, a surprising confession breathed new life into the case, proving that the story was far from over. Cold case detectives reopened the investigation in 2014. That's when the DNA evidence was finally tested, leading police back to Root. In April 2015, after a 6-year police interview, Root confessed to the killing. She told officers that Kelly was angry with her for not paying rent, and during an argument, she pushed Kelly. Root claimed it was an accident, that Kelly fell, hit her head, and lost consciousness. In a panic, Root said she hid the body and tried to cover up the crime. Root's legal team argued that the police violated her rights by not informing her of her Miranda rights during the interview. Despite this, the court denied the motion to suppress her confession. In December 2015, Robin Root was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The motive was financial. Root owed Kelly back rent and feared the consequences. The tragic argument led to Kelly's death and an attempt to hide the crime. Recently, the Michigan Court of Appeals ruled that Root's conviction must be overturned. They found that the trial court made a mistake by allowing her confession without properly informing her of her rights. Because of this violation, her statements from the 2015 interrogation cannot be used as evidence. As a result, her conviction was overturned and a new trial was ordered. This decision shocked many. A case once thought closed is now reopened. For Kelly's family, it's another painful chapter, while for Root, someone from his family said, "I hope there will be a time when you can give Dana the truth of what did happen and give her the peace you owe her." Our next case is fueled by obsession, betrayal, and cold-blooded revenge. Elizabeth Cooper didn't just lose control, she planned to kill.
Last week, she's since racked up 4 more felonies related to an attempted escape, which did not go over well.
On a routine Thursday at the Kenosha County Courthouse, an unexpected and dramatic event unfolded. Elizabeth Cooper, a 30-year-old woman from Twin Lakes, made a last-ditch attempt to escape justice, but her plan quickly fell apart. Cooper was in court facing a reckless homicide charge. Authorities say she provided substances to a friend who later died from an overdose. As she stood before the judge, she may have been hoping for leniency. But instead of being allowed to go home, the judge revoked her bond. A deputy was ordered to take her straight to jail until her trial. That's when panic set in. A deputy placed Cooper in handcuffs and began escorting her out of the courtroom. Everything seemed normal until the unexpected happened. While walking toward the elevator, the deputy got a call on his radio and was briefly distracted. In that moment, Cooper managed to slip one hand out of the cuffs and made a run for it. Surveillance cameras captured the chase as she sprinted down the courthouse staircase, desperate for an exit. As Sheriff David Beth later explained, the reality of going to jail hit her all at once, and she acted on impulse. Some people, especially those with smaller hands, can pull out of their cuffs, which is exactly what she did. She wasn't thinking about the consequences, just the chance to get away. But her escape attempt didn't last long.
Especially with women, if they have very small hands and small features, they can actually pull their hands out of a set of handcuffs.
A security guard near the courthouse entrance saw her running and tackled her before she could make it outside. Meanwhile, the deputy who had been escorting her tried to chase after her, but injured his knee in the process. He's expected to recover. Now, instead of just facing reckless homicide charges, Cooper has been hit with 3 new felonies: bail jumping, escaping criminal arrest, and resisting an officer, for which a preliminary hearing is scheduled for January 19, 2024, and a pretrial conference for her original charge on February 16, 2024. And according to the charges, the judge sentenced her up to 6 years in prison and fines up to $10,000 for bail jumping, felony, the same for escape from custody, and 9 months in jail, and fines up to $10,000 for resisting or obstructing an officer. Sheriff Beth later commented that while courthouse escapes are rare, they do happen. He recalled a similar incident 25 years ago, when someone managed to run away from him inside the courthouse. Cooper's desperate attempt at freedom may have been impulsive, but it only made things worse. Instead of escaping, she sealed her fate, and now faces even more serious legal consequences. Our next case is more haunting. This time, a reckless decision cost an innocent man his life.
So your actions that night took my partner, my world, my everything!
In 2019, Alondra Marquez, 22, caused a fatal DUI crash in San Diego, killing Zhao Pham and injuring Andy Lin. She was sentenced to over 13 years in prison. During sentencing, Marquez interrupted victim statements, leading to a heated exchange. It was supposed to be a fun getaway. Zhao Pham and his friend Andy Lin had traveled from San Francisco to San Diego for a wedding. The two spent their evening at a bar in Hillcrest before calling a Lyft to take them back safely. But that same night, 22-year-old Alondra Marquez made a dangerous choice. Despite multiple offers for a ride, she decided to drive herself. That decision led to a tragic accident, costing an innocent man his life. Marquez was well over the legal limit, yet she still chose to drive. She sped down Highway 163 in Balboa Park at a staggering 109 miles per hour, putting herself and others in danger. Within seconds, disaster struck. Marquez's car slammed into the back of the Lyft carrying Pham and Lin. The force of the crash sent the vehicle flying into a ravine. The Lyft driver managed to escape with minor injuries, but Pham was not as lucky. He lost his life on impact. Lynn survived, but suffered a traumatic brain injury that would change his life forever. Officers arrived to find the Lyft vehicle wrecked in a ravine. The shaken driver provided a first-hand account, while detectives gathered evidence, including skid marks and surveillance footage showing Marquez speeding without braking. Marquez was found near her damaged car, appearing disoriented, struggling to speak clearly, and showing signs of impairment. She was unable to pass a field sobriety test. With previous offenses and a suspended license, she faced serious charges, including reckless driving resulting in a tragic loss and causing severe injuries. As the case moved forward, prosecutors sought the harshest penalties possible. However, the defendant's defense tried to convince that it was an accident, but still, it can give peace to the victim's family.
Has shown remorse, but then she almost takes it back. I'm sorry for the victim's family, but it was an accident.
At Marquez's sentencing, the courtroom was filled with grief and rage. 13 people flew in from San Francisco to speak on behalf of Pham and Lynn. The most heartbreaking words came from John Lawhead, Pham's life partner of 11 years.
We were together for almost 11 years until your actions that night took my partner, my world, my everything! But you still don't have any remorse in your heart. You are very shallow, aren't you?
But instead of showing remorse, Marquez interrupted and mumbled, "I don't care." What made this tragedy even worse was that it was completely preventable. Marquez had 5 chances to make the right choice. 5 different people had offered to give her a ride that night, but she ignored them all. She wanted to drive, at any cost. Instead of choosing safety, she chose recklessness, and in doing so, she stole a life. Despite the heartbreaking testimonies, Marquez remained emotionless. She read from a prepared statement, showing no real regret for what she had done.
I remember, I realized that I really messed up. Clearly, I took someone's life, unfortunately. I just want you guys to know that I didn't do it on purpose.
Lawhead held up a picture of Pham's gravesite. "This is what I see when I go visit him now. Do you understand your actions now?" But Marquez had nothing meaningful to say. She simply asked for forgiveness. She said, "I'm sorry. I know you guys are hurting." And finally, Marquez was condemned for 13 years and 4 months with the possibility of parole after 9 years. Her words only added to the anger in the room. Lawhead, filled with grief, told her something he never thought he would say to another human being.
But you still don't have any remorse in your heart. You are very shallow, aren't you? You're a very shallow person, aren't you?
Marquez pleaded guilty and faced a maximum sentence of 13 years and 4 months in prison. But for Pham's loved ones, no sentence would ever bring him back. The man they loved was gone forever. Our next case begins with a quiet home in Essex and ends with Virginia McCullough accused of killing her elderly parents and hiding their bodies for years.
I did know that this would kind of come eventually. It's proper that I serve my punishment. Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy.
For 4 years, no one suspected a thing. Friends and neighbors believed Virginia McCullough's parents, John and Janice McCullough, had simply moved away. But behind the doors of their Essex home, a dark secret festered. Their bodies lay hidden in a makeshift tomb, while Virginia continued her daily life as if nothing had happened. The truth behind their gruesome fate would only come to light after a shocking confession, one that left police struggling to comprehend the depths of her deception. In August 2019, Virginia murdered both her parents, though exactly how she did it remains unclear. What is known is that John and Janice never left their home alive. Instead of reporting their deaths, Virginia wrapped their bodies in plastic and blankets, hiding them inside their home for years. She lied to family, friends, and neighbors, telling them her parents had moved abroad. She continued to collect their pensions, living in their house as if nothing had changed. But as time passed, suspicions grew. Relatives hadn't heard from John or Janice in years, and when the police were finally called for a welfare check in September 2023, Virginia's secret unraveled. She greeted the officers at the door with a chilling statement. "You've caught the bad guy." Inside, police found the decomposed remains of her parents, wrapped and hidden inside the home. Virginia McCullough's motive was a twisted mix of control, financial gain, and resentment. She had become dependent on her parents' money, relying on their pensions and savings to fund her life of deception. But there was more than greed driving her actions. Investigators discovered that Virginia had a history of conflict with her parents. Reports suggested that she resented their authority and felt trapped under their control. To her, their deaths weren't just about money, they were about freedom. By eliminating them, she was able to live her life on her own terms, without restrictions, without accountability, and without anyone questioning her. With her secret exposed, Virginia was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. In court, the disturbing details of her crime were laid bare. The prosecution painted a picture of a woman who had coldly planned the cover-up, deceiving everyone around her while living among the bodies of her victims. Her defense argued that mental health struggles played a role, but the jury wasn't convinced. Virginia McCullough was found guilty of both murders and sentenced to life in prison. For years, she had pretended her parents were still alive, but in the end, justice caught up with her. In the courtroom, the weight of the truth finally crashed down. Relatives of John and Janice were left stunned by the sheer horror of the crime. The idea that Virginia had lived for years with their bodies, lying to everyone she knew, was almost too much to process. To many, she wasn't just a murderer. She was a master manipulator, capable of keeping up a chilling charade for nearly half a decade. For her parents, there were no goodbyes, no final words, only a betrayal by the daughter they had raised. The actions of these women shattered lives and left communities forever changed. Their chilling actions, coupled with cold, remorseless courtroom faces, expose a darkness that goes beyond words.